It is Na'Vi. My bad point's been not is Na'Vi right now. The way that they lost to the Mongols, even though we're praising the Mongols for how they were able to win, I just think something needs to change really soon. I feel like they're gonna ride this out for the rest of the season because of VRS ranking, the fact that they're gonna be gifted a spot in the major. But if it were up to me and the major happened today, I definitely would look into a change because even though Blade downplays the attitude issues of the team, it feels like there's clearly something going wrong there. It does not feel like they're on the same page anymore. And what before was almost them overcoming the odds of them not having the best players because they had the best execution and some great tactics. Everybody's caught up to their tactics. The Mongols knew what plays they were going to run as they were running them most of the time, even with slight mix-ups where it's like, oh, okay, JL instead of being ramp this time is going to be helping on the mid take on Mirage. It doesn't really throw teams off enough anymore. Like you can just hear that there's more people there, and so they kind of can just count and they just realize still what the strat is. Navi need to either like everybody's. I feel like when Navi last year were in the middle of their run, they really solved Mirage. They really came up with a really solid formula for how you should take mid control, how you should split bomb sites off of it, how you should how you're not really using like as many true lurkers. It's just guys that are going to help you split the bomb site later. And that kind of stuff, everybody just understands it now. And so for them, the big bad point here is like it almost is like they need a honeymoon again. And I feel like the only way to really do that is you got to swap a player out. We see how Mao is sort of stagnated, but now I kind of have a new. It feels like Mao's are almost gaining a new lease on life. Just because, and I feel like you're a couple players that you could target here is like, I think you still, even though the role of the IGL is less valuable now, I wouldn't want to cut LXEB. But the sad thing is if tomorrow Navi say, yeah, we're getting Yimpat for Alexi and Ema's going to call now, I would actually be like, man, I just think it would work. It's kind of like wrapping up two things in one here, where it's like the bad of CS2, where you should just upgrade firepower, and also that IGLs are less important, along with the fact that Navi is in a position right now where it just doesn't feel like they don't like each other as much anymore.
But I think you said it also perfectly earlier, right, Mario, when you said like you see Messinho just go up, bang out bit. Well, if that's how you win a round, what you're gonna do about it, right? If you just miss your duel, you miss your duel, right? So then you just need straight up more firepower. And I think, like you say, like you need, of course, confidence in yourself, but you also need confidence in your teammates and stuff. Because if you start not having confidence in your teammate holding their side, you are yourself gonna be thinking about that and probably be more not aware of your own positioning, right? Because I have to go here. Suddenly, Messinho come and bangs out your head, right? So yeah, there could be some to that, right? But like, I also think, like, if only they had, like, a GOAT on their roster on the bench, right, somewhere, like, to bring back, right? Like, I mean, that would be, of course, unreasonable to talk about, right? But, I mean, if they had, they would be probably a fun thing to look into, right? So, yeah.
No, that's even the reason why I don't think people get it. Even before they failed, the reason you're always going to have a spicy conversation about Na'Vi is it's the only team that was like number one, where in theory you don't even have to sign a player. You could, if you want to do a drastic upgrade, you're right, Reg. Like you've obviously just got simple sat there, and there's even implied value if you're Na'Vi because you're already paying some of his salary anyway. So it's like, why not get value for that? So at this point in time, it doesn't look like anyone else is going to sign him, but I do think that pressure does exist, and this is where I don't care what people say in interviews publicly. Like Blade right now, if he sticks with this lineup, isn't going to say anything. He's not going to hint that Simple fucking comes back, is he? That'd be stupid. Like, what you do is, if you have to bring him back, you just wait, and at what point it's like too late, probably after the major and the first season finished. If things go really bad, and you're like, let's say it's like the last major, you don't even make top 8, maybe then you have to sit down and have a real thought about, like, right, do I actually have to do this? Even though I've said I wouldn't do it, and I've hinted that this is what I wanted, and I'm going to stick with this lineup. Because I'm with you. The other problem is, I actually did think this was a team that should potentially have thought about gambling for an upgrade in this last off-season. But a bit like Spirit, when you've had so many good results, it's like, you can give people more time. You can just say, you know what, we'll test your theory. Let's see if Magix is good enough in Spirit. Let's see if Immer or Wonderful can make it in Na'Vi. Let's give them like a few more months, and then we'll see, like, do they still end up being good? The problem right now is this. At the moment, everyone actually whines about how there's nobody aside from Vitality and Spirit. Well, it's supposed to be you, Na'Vi. You're supposed to be the other obvious third name that's guaranteed to be in every single semi-final. So in the same way as I said it was good that Mongols beat you, That's a bad sign when teams like that are beating you at this point in time. And then you look at their squad, and it's a downturn in almost every area. Like, first of all, the numbers just aren't as good for those players. It's why I told people, you could tell when they had that amazing run of all those finals, no one actually did think those were the best players in CS2. Like, no one, if you'd have taken those players out, and I could, like, put them in different teams, I could put one in Falcons and one in Vital, they wouldn't be super players. Some of them probably even have lower numbers. And in fact, you just see this year, the numbers are lower for almost everyone except basically Bit. Like, it turns out Bit was the one legit, like, true generational talent. And if you look at that player, right, if I had to pick a role to be my best role in the whole game, it wouldn't be Bits, for fuck's sake. I would want, like, Immer or Wonderful to be the best player. Like, they're the ones who are going to, like, dominate the game. So the problem is, to me, Bit's like a floor raiser type player. He's not the one that's going to, like, take over the game. And the problem they have in their team, this is also why that simple angle will always be tantalizing, at least conceptually, Regin, is whenever you looked at their team, we used to say this last year when they were winning, they don't have a Donk or a Ziwu or a Monasi. They don't have that guy who could just go, you know what, it doesn't matter that we actually are like a bit washed out with our strats, or this team's adapted, or they're better than us on this map, well, I'll just win anyway. They don't have that player. They don't. They always had to win as like an actual team doing real...
Well, but I would say
go on.
To this, actually, to the counterpoint, actually, is that I actually think they won a lot of rounds by exactly that. JL going out, banging out 3 where he shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I think that's the biggest difference right now to the Navi.
Oh, it's definitely a drop-off, for sure.
And yeah, well, not only him, but I think also Immer is the same, right? And Wonderful as well, right? And I think this is one of the prime examples where I think, as you said it yourself, Mario, right? When the chemistry and stuff drops off, you start losing faith in the team, but probably also yourself, right? And if you don't have confidence in CS, you're not going to make it. Like, you're simply not going to make it, because Donk doesn't care. He's going to swing you and you're going to be dead. Missinho doesn't care. He's going to swing you and you're going to be dead, right? So if you don't have this like family vibe thing where everything is just awesome and stuff, and you really trust your mate to pick you up, oh, even if I fail here, he's going to back me up and do it next time and stuff like that, and you're going to dare to make these plays and do these plays. But if you do it half-hearted, you're just going to get punished instantly. And I think that's what we're seeing with Navi right now.
And then put it this way, I'll just throw this out there. The actual sign, like, this is an exact sign, if you know the way that teams work, that they know they're in trouble, is that's why, guys, even they have now pivoted to trying to start to play train, because their map pool was bleeding out of their arse, bro. Like, remember, last year, they used to be really good on Ancient too by the end. Like, mate, they have so few, they basically just Mirage and, like, Inferno, basically. That's it, like... That's it. That's all they've got. So it's why there's also so many teams. Like, if people don't know, this is where, like, you can't just look at the last result. It's not just the Mongols one we're talking about. Bro, this team got clapped by Saw, and then Tai Lu won a fucking map off them. Like, these are inconceivable results. So no, I'm with you. I think Navi, I agree, by the way, it should even be in bad, not ugly. It's just a bad sign right now, mate. Every marker points down, which ties in, though, because I was actually going to do this. Let's do this as a more expansive conversation. I was going to make my bad point, so we can tie it in, the actual response to this comms issue, because this is one thing I want to get into with you guys. Like, you're a coach, Regin. Obviously, you've been around the scene. Right, here's the problem. I do agree with Maui. Right, this doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It does happen because this is obviously, like, frustration, because everything's going wrong and they keep having all these matches where things don't work out. And, like, the joke is, last year, they would have laughed off some of these scenarios if it happened, because everything was just going so awesome. They seemed like they had a mega team culture and everything was so smooth. Now it does look like people are frustrated and they're pissed off and people don't like the way things are going. So the problem is, though, the reason I put it as bad is, I think it's hard if you're an outsider and just a fan to evaluate this, because people are going really harsh on that comms thing. If they're like, they're acting like Alexi B and Emma hate each other, or, like, you know, they're fucking getting in fist fights backstage or something. Like, here's the problem. I think on some levels it's a bad omen for the overall Navi squad, but I also do think people are maybe overblowing that part. Like, by the way, I won't say which teams, but there's some people that are way spicier than that behind closed doors when they're having a fucking argument. There's people that, I mean, I think, wasn't it even fuck, who was it? Oh, it was Dupree who said that basically, like, I've actually hinted this in the past. If people don't know, by the way, Glaive and Meg supposedly argued all the time in Astralis. They had, like, totally different views on how things should be done and how they should play the game and all that jazz. Like, spoiler, maybe certain people in Falcons had to find that out the hard way. Anyway, whatever, that's just a free inside joke for people listening. Right, so what do you think, Regin? What do you think about this thing of people... Navi did have this outburst where EPL highlighted it, and then I can't tell if everyone's going mad or if it's a joke or what.
Yeah, it's just hard to take it out of context, right? Because, like, you have, like, how long is the clip? Like 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's not very long.
You know, so you have to make the best judgment out of those, right?
Thing is, so out of context,
like,
it is a masterpiece how they've cut it, because it is almost it's almost like him just going like, "Hey guys, that was funny," and then Alex would be like, "Shut the fuck up, I hate you." Like, not really, but that's how it feels when you watch the clip. Like, what the fuck? Okay,
yeah,
like,
I think like from my standpoint, it's like it's never good to have a talk like that during a game. Like you don't want that. You want positive vibes and stuff like that. So what it tells me is that. It tells me that people are starting to questioning Alexi.
Right.
Like if I have to really analyze it, right, with this small clip, right, then it tells me that people are starting to question it, because what he's basically saying is that every time I'm making a call, it's going to be questioned the round after, or they should have changed it somehow or whatever, right? That's what I'm hearing, but that's not necessarily the case, right? It could be just whatever, right? So I think it's definitely being overblown out of proportion, but at the same time, I've worked with Kerrigan, who is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best in-game leader of all time. And it's not always because tactical side. Of course, he's a super smart player, but it's not like he's like blade tactical, when we talk about these things, right? But what he does is that he leads a team. He's a leader. Like when he say jump, no one says why. They ask how high.
There was actually a thing someone linked on my Discord, I think it was, Regin, which is way back in the day, I did an interview with Jacob, who used to play, obviously, with like FaZe very briefly when Kerrigan joined. And he actually told this story. He said something like when Kerrigan joined FaZe initially, he just said something to them like, look, like every call I won't be right, but just trust the call, basically. Like, just shut the fuck up and listen, just trust what it is, and then we'll figure it out afterwards. But it gives implied what you're saying.
And it's just like being a leader is so much more than calling the right tactic at the right time. Yes. It's about trust, that you have to trust the team. And I think now we talk about Kerrigan. That's exactly what happened back in 2018 when he got booted from FaZe, right? When they lost the Boston major and stuff like that, and they lost trust in him. And you could see it right away when he called something. The decisions from when he made the call to when the plan was executed was maybe delayed by 1 or 2 or 3 seconds. And those seconds is that's like an hour in CS time, right? You like 1 second in CS, people don't understand how much a second is in CS compared to when you make the call, when you do it, right? And I think when you start losing people's trust in that way, because fuck the calls, like the calls doesn't matter in the end, because you can win on a bad call if just everyone follows that call instantaneously right away. It might not be the best call, but we do it because we trust it and we just go for it, right? We win so many rounds, we won so many rounds in Mouse back in the days where Kerrigan would just say, we made a pre-plan saying, okay, if we hear this nade, we're just gonna be like their 3B, let's say we play Inferno, right? And we would react instantly up middle. That would be our game plan. Simple as that. It's not like any crazy flashes and stuff, and that would be it. And then when Kerrigan heard this specific nade, rush A, and people just did it right away. And oftentimes there would be 4A, and we still won the round because like people would just be like going up with such confidence that there will only be 2 players there, that you would just be like bang, bang, right? And then it's just like won the round anyway, right? So I think it comes down to this trust thing and how well you are performing as a leader, and not to kiss Valdez ass or anything, but that's what he's bringing. He's not bringing this highly tactical depth, but he's just a natural leader. That's why I wanted to work with him, because I know how good a leader he can be, and he frags out as well, right? So that's like a plus side on that, right? So I think these leaders are becoming way more important than having these let's call them blades of the Counter-Strike.
No, I know
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or myself, because I love to create new tactics, smoke stuff like that. I just see it become more irrelevant because like it's all about speed and confidence and trust. So yeah, I don't know. I went on a tantrum there, but I don't know.
No, it's good. Tangent, yeah, all good. What do you think, Maui?
The clip of Alexi. I feel like I've actually started listening so in depth to these Kadia listen-ins because they just don't know where to cut them, and they just put on anything at this point. Like I feel like there was a little bit of judgment that was exercised for comms clips in the early stages because I think what was it, like Blast, for example, like Blast was doing the listen. I was gonna say Kadia listen-ins actually, but they were doing the listen-ins, and you would just generally, like, if it even aired slightly too far on the tactics side, I'm pretty sure that these orgs would just like ring up Blast and be like, hey, like that had one thing about it. Okay. And now it's like sometimes we get full mid rounds coming on. Like they put on. I don't know if people saw this, but between Liquid's map 2 and 3, I think in their 2-2 game to qualify for the playoffs. They had Naf's POV with all the comms of like the whole game. And it was like everything. Right. Okay. It was like everything that was happening, and I was like, there's no cuts here at all. Like they're just playing it out. It was during like an ad break, so I don't think people watched it because it was like between maps 2 and 3, it was like 10 minutes of Naf comms and the whole team's comms, and I was like, wow, that's like the most info I've gotten from a team for quite some time, and I just don't even know who signed off on this entirely. But you could hear why they were calling their mid rounds and how Twist was like coming up with ideas and everything like that. And I was like, dude, this feels like if I'm Liquid, I'm a little bit upset that this is actually out there. Sure. But
they just don't care anymore because there's no tactics in CS and just swing anyway. So just like fuck it.
They're just gonna run up porch anyways. They're just smoking moto and flashing in anyways. It doesn't matter.
Listen, anyone can call the mid to B, Maui. Anyone can do that, mate.
That was a wild stat, by the way. But for the Alexi B emo clip, I also just think like when you're working with people this closely, you can just stay a little bit more to them. I don't think they're seeing it like, oh my god, how could Alexi say anything bad to emo? It's like, if you're working with someone for like 2 years, you might snap at them on something eventually, and like the tone that people have is all just different with each other, and it's like it is kind of the HR snowflake era of people just thinking that anything that is even lightly disparaging to another person is just way too far and gone. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad we don't have abusive workplace relationships where it's like Gordon Ramsay is normalized, or like I don't want everybody to be Fletcher from Whiplash to throw symbols at me. Like I am like on that side of things, but I also do think that a little bit of sternness at times just to move on is important. And also having listened to the comms of Alexi B on his past teams when at events before, like sometimes he just needs people to shut the hell up. Like sometimes he needs to call the next strategy. Like he needs, because like, dude, you have such a limited amount of time when a round is over that if you want to put something even moderately more complex in motion, you have to say like, okay, instead this round of our normal 3A default, we're going to do like JL, you're going to go underpass with Ema. Like he needs that time. He needs that time to say something. So like corrections. And I also like in live match situations, I also think like little adjustments that should be gone over in prac time before, like in your next theory session or your next like hour of server time. Leave it to then. Like we don't need the light adjustment there. I'm team Alexi. That's all I'm saying. I'm team Alexi.
Put it this way, on this one, I am also team Alexi. But one of the reasons why is I actually feel like this is where people have forgotten a narrative in Na'Vi. Remember, the narrative of why when Ima's stats were bad a year ago, they kept him is they said his whole role is going to be he's going to be the secondary voice in the team and make calls, right? Here's the problem here. Ima didn't get the memo on what a secondary caller does. A secondary caller doesn't just like wait for the caller to call and then overrule him and change the strat. Like what you do is if you have a really good adjustment, you throw it out there. Like you have sort of a green light to put your input in, but you don't do it every time because as we're talking about with this Carrigan example, you're going to actually make the caller himself feel like, is any of our fucking calls right? Can we just do what I'm saying? Like the point is, if you have essentially like a really amazing, like you've seen an angle, by the way, the best one's obviously going to be when it's something to do with your position. Maybe you're seeing something with how you're conditioning a spot on T side and you're just saying, look, actually, if we just switch it up like this, it'll work better. That's good. But what you've got to do if your Immer is, whereas before you wouldn't have said anything, now you're saying too much. You've got to pick your spots better for that one. Because I actually totally get that Alexi B frustration. Like, I know exactly what Regin means. There's a type of IGL who's really smart, and so people know he should be the tactician, but they aren't always the person who has like complete control of the team. And so in this scenario, it's like people are just trying, they think they're helping is the worst thing. When they add in their bullshit, which by the way, sometimes they're not even like, if you look at the way Emma was saying it, they're not even always saying like, do this instead. They go, and we can also do this. It's like, can we just do the thing I'm saying? Like, can we just by default trust my call and then we'll fix it if we need to? I'm with you as well, Maui, on that one. Like, some of this shit doesn't have to be done right now. Like, you're actually just stepping on my toes.
But I think also like this where people like are with the in-game leaders and second callers and stuff like that. People are, excuse my friends, fucking retarded. Like, sorry to say, but like it's so stupid to listen to and see. Like, oh, isn't Slacks calling CT side D2? Why the fuck would he be calling? He's then jumping on B Mirage. What is you call? Hey, guys, you in middle, can you do that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, people seriously don't understand CS. Same goes for secondary caller. A secondary caller is exactly like you're saying, Duncan. Not a guy who's sitting there, oh, we could also rush B. That's not his job. His job is when there is no call, and he's hopefully, on the other side of the map, he can help out Alexi and be like, oh, we can do Navi now, or we can do Gambit, whatever they call it, the tactics, right? And then we do it because he has the opportunity. That's the idea with the secondary caller, to help out mid-round, or to help out when there is not an idea or whatever, right? But people have to stop analyzing and understand these things, like with the CT sides and stuff like that, and get your head, like, understand CS before you open your mouth. Like, that's all I'm saying. There's so many times I got a little bit of rest there.
No, it's all good. Also, I will just say as well, I actually just personally, I actually just enjoyed it as entertainment, Maui, like them just bickering like an old married couple, like, oh, I'm going to take the A94. Well, you know you'll never get there in 20 minutes if we do that. What about the traffic? Oh, well, this is, well, you want to drive then? Am I driving or are you driving? Like, I knew you'd speak to me this way. I should listen to my mother and never married you. Like, they are doing that shit, which, by the way, is also when you've been in a team for a while and you get like that friction, don't you? When you've just like, you've annoyed each other.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, they are traveling together. They're sleeping in the same rooms many times. Let's get solo rooms.
Yeah.
They're practicing 8 hours a day. They're talking theory. Like,
by the way, that's
together.
even an underrated part. Remember, because Na'Vi hasn't changed roster. They've had this roster since like blast fall of fucking 2023, guys. Like, every other team pretty much has changed their player by now. So they are also people who've been together a long time at this point in time. They've already gone through all the traditional methods of solving all the problems.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.